Welcome to SSDD Studios. The growing culture and creative sector is profitable and gigantic, with a turnover bigger than most industries.
At the same time, it's a fragile gig economy of freelancers and micro-entrepreneurs with specialized knowledge. The next panel will try to answer the question, is this a sustainable way of going forward? Here is Shitty Business. Welcome up on stage, Bertil Björk, Friederike Rödenbeck and Caroline Le Bongoat.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's a kind of a tricky question that we're going to try to dwell a bit upon this afternoon. First of all, so nice to be here at the Southern Sweden Design Days.
Yes, absolutely, and thank you for bringing me into this talk.
Caroline Le Bongoat, you are Business Development Manager here in Malmö, working for the City Foreign Department of Trade and Investment, and you've always been very much into the creative and cultural scene in so many ways. What's your background, really?
I have been working with the creative industry since a long time. I have been both in the music industry in different positions, manager, production manager in studios, tour manager, and making festivals, being in charge of venues, and I also worked within the theater and opera and film industry, and making fashion magazines. And a long time ago, I went to School of Visual Arts in New York.
Okay, I trust that you have some knowledge about what we're going to talk about today. Friederike Rödenbeck, thank you for joining us today. You are director, fancy director of one of the smaller agencies in Sweden, the Council for Handicraft.
Yes.
Can you tell us about your background?
Yes, I'm the opposite of Caroline. I fill up what she hasn't been doing. I've been into the handicraft business all my life, and I'm trained as a handicraft consultant and as a society planner. So we're good together.
Yes.
Yeah. And me, I don't have a background in arts or culture at all, actually. I'm a journalist, and I've been working as a journalist and editor for I would say, 35 good years. Before I started at Stapen, which is like a creative hub located here in Malmö. And since a couple of months, we are also running a place called the Stapen Lab, which is an incubator for the creative industry, specializing on the free cultural life. Did you see anything interesting in the exhibition today? Anything that caught your attention?
I'm happy to see so much about sustainability, and my favorite project, which we have been given grants to, they recycle kick bikes, and I think that's just wonderful. That's Handicraft 2022.
Yeah, definitely. How about you?
I have been around a bit and seen some really great installations, home installation out in the city, and I also enjoy seeing the spook exhibitions here. And exhibitions is such a great honor to say exhibitions, because it started out as a development project here in Malmö, and now it's spread throughout the whole of Sweden, and it shows all the industry that are sometimes hidden, and we have a big industry, and they can collaborate much more with the design field in Sweden, and yeah.
It's a great example of how 1 + 1 can be 3. I mean, to connect designers and the producers locally.
Yes.
Really good. I was actually surprised by the exhibition from a program called Design plus Change, Växjö University. There are some really interesting suggestions about lawmaking, policy making, that struck me. Okidoki, let's start to talk about the cultural sector, the CCI, the cultural and creative industry. what is it really? How big is it? What does it mean? Because first and foremost, culture is culture. I mean, it's good enough as it is. I mean, a life without music, books, drama, dance, design, architecture would be, I mean, not only boring, but probably useless in a way. But today we're going to talk a little bit about the other aspect. This is actually an industry with professionals who are making their living and their income from this industry. So what is it like? How big is it really? Caroline, I know you always want to start with giving out some numbers.
Yeah, it's big. It's really big, and I don't think that people in common realize how big it is. It's like the biggest business in Sweden. With only in Stockholm, the revenue is 270 billions a year. And that's only Stockholm. Then we haven't counted the whole of Sweden. And it's bigger than the forest industry and the wood industry. So it's huge. Mm-hmm. And you can also see that it's bigger than the food industry as well. So we have to take care of analyze this businesses much, much better to learn to know them in the smaller perspective. So because we are different in Sweden in the different areas, and we also focusing on different areas within the creative industry. So we have to be better on telling the numbers and find more investors, etc. But it's a big business, and people in the business need to feel that they are a big business to get some more self-confident about this.
But it's not a very homogeneous business. I mean, there are different parts of the industry working in a very, very different way. I mean, you from the handicrafts perspective, who is working in the business from your point of view?
I think we have quite a broad perspective on handicraft. So it's traditional, it's very modern things, but mostly people are they have their own enterprise, they work alone, and in that way it's very hard. You need networks, and you need places to work together with others, and also you need to get paid, and that's the big problem actually. You can't. Somebody told me you can't live on a sausage and a beer, even if you love your work, and that's.
Because often I think when we talk about the business, that it's like, I don't know, 3.1% of the GDP or something like that. Turnover only in Sweden, how much? Like 36 billion, something like that. Was a figure I saw. And then you talk to the artists, to the musicians, to the dancers, to the designers, and there was where's the money? Show me the money, because they don't see much of it. So could you say that the core are the poor in this business, and that they feed a big industry? Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say so, actually.
Yes.
We are not willing to pay enough for the core and for their fantastic art, or we need to, I mean, there are people who want to make profit of that instead of pay what they actually should earn, because it's worth a lot for people.
And also we try to keep culture in a kind of culture, what should I call it? I mean, we need these people in all sectors in the society. They can develop, I mean, that's what they are doing. They are developing things. They are like.
And who's to blame for this? Is it like the business life is narrow-minded, or is it the artists that don't see their own potential and present themselves in the right way?
I think it's a lot of things. I think, for instance, one thing is that you're not trained in making business, and if you're going to have your own company, you actually have to train how to make people see you, how to make the bookkeeping and all that kind of things, and you don't get that even if you have a very long education period. So that's one thing, and I think there are a lot of. It's not only one.
Because since the last couple of months since we started the incubator, I've been talking to so many freelancers, micro companies who've been applying for the program, and it's such a diverse group. I mean, most of them are in some way, they say combinators, kombinatörer. There are multipliers. There are, of course, a lot of proxies in this business, but they all seem to struggle with the same problem, that they don't have like the basic skills in business. Isn't that strange? I mean, if you're a freelancer or run a small company, you should know bookkeeping, right?
But is it strange? Because I want to go back a step, because if you see how Sweden as a society are thinking about culture, we doesn't put in that big value as if you're in Southern Europe. It's much more valuable in, for example, Germany or France or Italy, and you could also see that they have much more money into education, and they have much more money for making companies out of this and put people out on the international market, and also that there are private investors in a much bigger percent than in Sweden. We don't invest from the private sector.
That's really interesting. I saw a figure from Europe.
And that's why I also think that you actually, why should I be a company? Am I a company? Am I an enterprise in this? Where am I as an artist? It's not really clear.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, you are an entrepreneur. I mean, to be honest,
yes.
the term entrepreneur was I would say in Sweden is defined by Handelshögskolan, the business school in Stockholm, and to be honest, no entrepreneur has left that school the last 20 years. I mean, no, I mean it's true. They leave the school and they become executives in big companies, banks, that kind. But if you look at like a music university, 90% will be entrepreneurs when they leave the school. The same for design school, the same for film schools, the same for art schools and such. So it would be more interesting actually if the art schools in Sweden were the ones who were defining what it is to be an entrepreneur.
An artist and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, for sure.
So you can feel both the sides and feel comfortable with them, because I think you have to grow into what you define yourself, and you have to feel comfortable about it, and not.
And you have to be creative in your entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
So each and every person has to develop their way of making the business,
or learn how to buy those services, because you're not naturally good at math. We have different talents, and if you have different talents, why should you try to do the ones you're not that good at? Instead, you should learn how to bring that competence into your company, or buy that competence, and that's also something you have to learn. And maybe when you do your education,
Do you think that there's a lot of artists who are involuntary entrepreneurs that would rather be hired by someone or work for a big institution, but feel that they are forced to become entrepreneurs?
I think many want the freedom of having your own company, but you don't. But there are things in that you don't want to take care of. So I think it's double.
It sounds like an attitude problem more than a structural problem, right?
Maybe we should ask maybe we three aren't the right persons to answer that question. But
no, but I'm thinking more and more people are becoming freelancers in general. I mean, the gig economy that was invented by the music scene, doing a gig and getting paid for it, is now so common in so many sectors. So maybe there's something for other sectors to learn from the creative industry.
Yeah, and the creative industry is so differentiated. I mean, there's so many different sectors, and you do business in different ways. And sometimes you're employed by the private sector or the public sector, or you want to go on tour or do that kind of business, or you want to be an entrepreneur and then you maybe need some other constellation or team to bring that forward with you. So it's hard to say it's like this or like that. It's in so many different ways, and we have to treat it like that, I think.
So do you think that we need to learn from each other in the way that we need more like agencies and managers to take care of the business side of
maybe in some way,
lives?
yes. And also learn to trust and build relations that if I'm going to do, if I had this vision where I'm going with my artistry like this, bring it forward or out to the world, who is the best to do it with me? Who is my team, and how can we work as a team much better? And who can actually work with a group of people who wants some way in the same direction?
Okay, and then I have to turn to you, because I mean, I know your crowd. It's a small businesses combiners. Would they even afford to have an agency or a management to do their business? I mean, apart from a few superstars in the field, of course.
That's, of course, you need to do some agreement, because the agency need to get paid. So that's kind of tricky, but still, I think it's good. And when I was working at Iris Hantverk, a small company with visually impaired craftspeople, started in 1886. When we realized we had to go to an international market, we contacted the Swedish Export Council, and they helped us. We could go into a shared stand in Frankfurt, and that kind of help, it cost, but that started a fabulous trip for us. So I think sometimes you have to make that effort to pay someone who can really get you going.
And the market actually grows for you.
Yes. Nowadays the companies sell 70% of what they produce on export, and they. I mean, selling in export, that's good because you get a bigger market, but it's also when you go abroad, you meet different buyers, you meet other cultures, you get so much back that you can develop. So it was really worth it.
I know that you've been working also to push internationalization and export. What are the obstacles, would you say? I mean, I know you did it with the fashion industry and the design industry a few years ago.
Yeah, I see. I'm just curious. Did you get help with like an internationalization plan as well, when you or to like put up a plan for a couple of years? So, because I think that is one thing. how am I to think and make a strategy for if you're self-employed or if you have a smaller company, it's a big effort. And maybe you don't have that kind of skills and you need that kind of help to make sure you are ready to go into internationalization and take place on international market arenas, like big fairs or whatever it is. You have to do your homework. And for us, it has been. We had a 3-year. We made a 3-year project called Southern Sweden Creatives, which were looking both into the film industry, digital media, design area, and gaming, to help companies that were kind of coming a bit on that journey and need the last effort to learn and to get help to put their business out and sell to a global market. It was a fantastic project to keep, different ways of making business, different business arenas. They could also learn between each other, but most of all, just to get some very pinpointed help. What are your needs for your company? It doesn't take that much hours to sit with a person who can actually show and get interested in your company and get a nice, good plan.
But then again, you need that kind of institution,
Yes.
organization,
Yes.
network, branch organization, or whatever it is. And is this a lack today in Sweden?
A little bit,
Yes.
yes, or much.
You run one of these meeting places.
Yeah, I do it in a way, but we are not there yet that we can work with export. But we tailor make it pretty much for the people who sign in to the program. And I can say that when we started the incubator, we had a target group, and that was people who've been working in the field for a few years, but needed some help to structure it, to take the next step. So Stop and Lab is by no means a startup incubator. We don't work with startups at all, because that's a process of its own. But this incubator is to strengthen the people who are already in the field, who already have customers and have their creative processes in full order.
But you are a meeting place, and that's also very important. Somewhere where you can go and just meet other people in the same situation and chat a bit. I think that's very important too. And
to share knowledge
yes,
between each other.
yes. And you arrange a lot of talks and stuff like that.
But then again, it's not productive to only to stay in your own local community. The culture industry defines by that it's mobile, that there is knowledge that travels, the exchanges between people. Just look at how music develops, or that we still play Greek dramas from 2,000 years back on our national scenes. You can't box it, so you need to reach out.
But it is kind of hard, because if you look into what kind of support can you get from the government to go abroad with your company, it's very focused on today is very focused on the traditional industry and how it has been doing for years and years and years, and it's not made to put out a one-person company. In many ways. So, and they have to get together. You have to see it from different angles. How should we do with these companies? You have to take in that it is a little bit different in the creative industry. And you have to maybe look at other countries who has been doing this already. And you don't have to figure it out yourself. And take a good look in Europe on the countries who already are in the forefront.
So then the question is can you actually spot the next Minecraft, Zara Larsson, or TV series like The Bridge, or do you have to cultivate in a broad way to see it? Because there was script writers who did the script writers who did The Bridge. They also did Reine and Mimmi i Fjällen. That's a joke that only works for people over 50 and in Sweden. So I mean, there's something before you do this international.
You mean you have to
hits.
trial and error?
You have to trial and error,
Yes,
and there has to be a
learn.
Zara Larsson in every school, singing in front of the mirror
But then you have to kind of tailor-made your when you're helping people. You can't just say we're here is a business model canvas, because that is not going to fit everybody.
And do you think it's like that now that we don't tailor make enough?
Yes, and I think that we who are supporting these categories, we should have bigger ears and smaller mouth.
So why are
And
we three sitting here talking?
We are sitting here talking, but still, I think we need to listen much more about what needs are.
Okay. To wrap it up a bit, Colin, you have like a helicopter view of the business, I would say. Who are the best players in the field? You don't have to mention the worst, but who can we look at to see winning concepts and ways to go to growth?
I think it's kind of a hard question to answer, but if you look at like the gaming industries, who's quite young industry within the creative area, and they have been going global from like day one, because you started to communicate and your network was all over the world. They are like on this great journey. They need people, they grow fast, they need money, they need more investors in the beginning of the journey of the companies. But they haven't complained that much, because they are already companies when they start. They doesn't seem to need that much of support, because often there are people who are more like have more experience come along with them early on in their journey and help them with the business side. So it's I think they are having a good time.
They're also the lucky one, because it's a business that is growing very fast.
But if
right
you're
now.
an artist and like doing this by yourself, it's kind of harder.
Fredrik, how do you prepare a young person to become a cultural entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think you have to work together with others, see how does other people do, and try, and then encourage people if they have an idea about what they have been making and how they then they need to be encouraged, and they need to talk to others that are more experienced. I think.
What about business training in art schools?
Yes. Then I would make like this. I think it's very odd that you can go to university for 5 years and be trained in something, and everybody knows that you have to make your own company if you want to work commercially with it, and still you don't mention it. It just comes like a surprise afterwards, and that's very odd.
It would be interesting to see if, like, when you are educated in art school or a cultural education, if you could go in, like, into an incubator afterwards to see if you could go straight into an, like, okay, and now it's time for learn how to make this a company and make this an enterprise. I think we have such a good system already for incubating, but we have to open up, and I think Stoppen is doing the right thing right now, but what if we can combine the different ecosystem here in the innovation area and the startup area for everyone?
Okay.
Because I think that for the future, we need the competence within the creative industry into other industries. That's so important to get solutions.
I mean, let's meet in a year at South Sweden Design Days and check out what has happened with the incubator program that we've been running.
Yes, and bring in the artists and the creators in this and discuss it in a wider perspective.
Yes.
Let's do that. It's a deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.